It felt very different, and I'll be honest, this is not something I highlighted before, but this was going to be my last Olympia. It was going to be my last Olympia.
Well, let's start with the most obvious question that I've got on my list then.
Yeah,
Congratulations, men's physique winner, Mr. Olympia.
thank
How,
you.
how's it feel? Because it's been quite a journey, right? And we'll get into that. But
Yeah,
how did it feel when you were on that stage? Because I've seen the video.
yeah,
You look like you were floating on air. Talk me through how it felt.
yeah. Well, I cried my eyes out on stage. Luckily, there was a lot of people like congratulated me and hid that from the media. But it was just so surreal, Joe. And even now, getting shivers. Actually, we're talking about it because yeah, it like everything rushed to me all at once. So it wasn't just the initial part of winning. It was more the fact that like my life's career, so 2/3 of my life, I've worked towards that title. So every like injury I've ever had, so like my three hip surgeries, my back surgery, my shoulder injuries, just all these like social things that I'd missed because I was competing for a title at the time, or I was in prep, or all these things just came rushing all at once, which was really weird to think my career resume is complete now. I've completed every single title that I can and that I wanted. And yeah, I honestly thought I was going to pass out. My legs went like jelly. I was so elated. And there was a part of me just so relieved that I could do it. And it was getting to a point where I was becoming the flex wheeler of the men's physique world, where it was that the uncrowned Mr. Olympia people were calling me and all these types of things. I thought, I don't want to go down in history as that person. Like I felt like I've still got what it takes. And yeah, 9 years on, we finally got it. But it was just, yeah, a mesmeric moment which I'll never, ever forget.
Ninth time lucky, hey.
Yeah.
Did it feel different this time? Did you have a sense
Yeah.
that you were going to win? Because you were 9 pounds heavier than 2022, right? So your physique has gone
Yeah.
through a remarkable change. But did you
Yeah.
ever have, you were very, very, you're not an arrogant guy, right? So there's never that
Yeah.
ego there. But did it feel different? Did you feel like it was your time?
Yeah. So it felt very different. And I'll be honest, this is not something I highlighted before, but this was going to be my last Olympia. It was going to be my last Olympia. So I'm a guy, I'm a guy who is a realist, and he's someone who is very competitive and wants to know he's got a chance of winning. I don't want to just make the numbers up. And I don't want to be somebody who, like I say, people respect, but they think, come on, you've had 10 years at this, you've had 8 years at this, it's time to go away. And no matter how you look at it, bodybuilding is a very selfish sport. However you try not to be, it is. And it doesn't just affect you, it affects people around you, so your family and everybody. And I could see the Olympia was becoming just a stressful time because it was always about where I went wrong. And it was like slowly over the years, I was like the last couple of years, I was actually going the wrong direction to winning it. My places were going down. And I didn't want to keep putting my family through that if there wasn't a chance of me winning. If I knew there was, I'd keep going and keep going. But this year, I said to my wife, there's two titles that I really need in my resume, and it's done, which is the New York Pro, because that's one thing I never did in the past, and obviously the Olympia title. But I just said, again, I'm going to go all out, do the New York, and have my last attempt at the Olympia and do it myself, prep myself, and just go out on a high when people still respect me as an athlete. So that was my intention. And like I say, won the New York Pro, worked on all the negatives, like the back needed to come up and things like that. And I just wanted to showcase my very best on the last time stepping on the Olympia stage, because something just hit me as I was prepping when they started talking about the three Bs. So Brandon Hendrickson, Jeremy Buendia, Erin Banks, and then they were talking about Chiron. So they were talking about the top four, and it really, I wasn't even placed in the top 7 in people's minds. And I don't know what it was. Something just clicked, like flipped in my head. And I was like, when did I, as an athlete or as a person, let that be okay, that people thought I wasn't even worthy of being in the top 7? And I don't know what it was. It fired me up so much this year to just, I don't know, make what's the word? Prove to myself, prove to my family, prove to everybody that I am worthy of being up there. When I retire, I'll be up there in the top 3. So that was my intention. And I just went all out. And yeah, it was, and the thing was as well, when I went into peak week, normally I'm quite a nervous competitor and I'm always like overthinking things. I don't want to let the UK down. I don't want to let my sponsors down. I don't want to let family. And I let that drive me, but possibly in the past as a negative. But now I couldn't see that. I can see it now. This year, I had no pressure on me whatsoever because I wasn't in the top 7, because people weren't expecting anything of me. My family, for the first time, didn't come out, my wife, my kids, which is a shame because it's the first year they didn't come out with me. But I just said to them, look, I just want to go out there and finish on top and be at my best. So I had no pressure going into peak week. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Olympia, but like when they've got the front runners, especially the top 5, they have the favourites that all the media, everybody are trying to capture footage of them because obviously they want to get that gold dust footage if one of them wins. So we're in the gym and they're all crowded around all these the 3Bs and whatnot, and they're not even acknowledging me in the background. And all the while, it was just firing me up so much because I like being the underdog. I've always loved training as an underdog or being in that position, which is not necessarily the right thing to be as a champion, but it's always driven me on, really. And it just felt like I was there to fight, you know, especially in peak week. So as I got closer to it, there was no nerves that came into it. It was strategically planned in my head what I was doing, next meal, when I needed to rest, when I needed to train, when I needed to do my posing. And it was just military. And I just went in and it felt amazing. Best I ever felt.
Hi, I really hope you're enjoying this unfiltered interview. This video is powered by Ultimate Performance. With more than 20 gyms across 4 continents, Ultimate Performance provides the world's only global premium personal training experience, delivering maximum results in minimum time. And having experienced the UP service myself, I can safely say it's about far more than just a body transformation. It changed my life and it will change yours too. Find out more at ultimateperformance.com. Going into it with a different mentality must have made a difference, right? But was there anything fundamentally you'd done different this time? Obviously, you're a lot heavier. So it was a real strategic operation in many respects to be bigger, to be more defined, because we've seen the class over the time you've done it become much bigger, right? Much more muscular.
Yeah.
You've had to adapt with that. You can't just keep bringing the same package. Was it very much part of your mentality? Like, if this is my last show, I'm coming the biggest, the best, the leanest. And how did you kind of turn that in your head into the reality?
Yeah. So for me, I've always stated that oversized, I've always wanted functionality, aesthetics, and what's the word? Like sustainability in my physique. So I never wanted to be the biggest guy on stage. I never wanted to be massive. I always trained with super heavyweights, but I was not naively, what's the word? I was always sticking to what I wanted to stick to. So over the years, it was like, you take me as I am. Like if I'm not what men's physique is, at the size I am, and I feel comfortable like this, because maybe in the past, subconsciously, obviously in my early years, I got training because I had a body dysmorphia of being overweight, all this kind of stuff. So I never started training. My fitness lifestyle was never about trying to be the biggest guy in the room. It was always trying to be the leanest and the most athletic. So I always found it hard to get my head around off season, trying to grow massive for the next year. It didn't resonate with me. I didn't like doing that sort of thing. But as you say, because I felt like this was my last year, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to conform to everything they want of me and see if that was a missing piece, because I'd forever be kicking myself, retired, not knowing I've done everything I could have done for that title. So we set out from last Olympia, which I remember like it was yesterday. Tyler Mannion come to see me 2 days after the Olympia in Flex Lewis's gym in Vegas. And he said, look, you're everything we want. We need this, and this from you. And I thought, every year they tell me they need something different. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to do everything you say to a T, and let's see what happens. And it was bring my back up. He said, from the front, you Mr. Olympia. From the back, you drop places. And you can see in any of the footage, you can always see that I'm always fighting in the top 3. And then as soon as I turn to the back, I start to lose places. So I was like, right. So I put a plan together Monday and Friday, every day for 365 days. I'll hit my back twice a week. I'm going to grow. I want to grow. I want to put some muscle tissue on. I'm going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to cover up for a year. And get into that realm of being uncomfortable, getting bigger. So we overate, we had an off season, we did all the stuff possible. And well, I did, yeah, because I keep saying we as a team, but it was me, myself, and I. but yeah, and that's what I did. I just relentlessly kept working on that. And one thing they said to me is, because obviously with family and business and all that kind of stuff, over the years, I've not gone over to America as much and had feedback and competed throughout the year. But because I competed in the New York Pro, I could learn the mistakes in a local show, like a smaller show ready for the Olympia. So they corrected so many things with my back posing, with my stage presence. They said all these things which I didn't know anything about, and I should have done. I should have done my research, and it's my own fault. I put my hands up. I maybe could have won this title a few years ago if I'd have done this, but I just never saw that as an option to go to the judges and start really asking for feedback, going to New York and to Pittsburgh to see Jim Mannion, who's the president of the IFBB, to see Steve Weinberg, the head judge, and get actual one-to-one feedback. So I was always only getting feedback when I came 7th at the Olympia after stepping off stage. It's too late by then. Whereas this year, they gave me a target, a plan. They showed me what they wanted to see on stage, which was the hands on hips facing forward, which was the bringing the lats up, squeezing the lower back. And little things, what sound very trivial, just changed my physique overnight. It was unbelievable. That back shot, it was all there. I could just never showcase it. And people go, how have you brought your back up so much? So I was like, there's part of it, obviously training twice a week, but the other part was actually being able to showcase it properly. Because I've only ever used to, with super heavyweights, hitting a back double bicep to show condition, which as a men's physique competitor, you don't do that. So when I step on stage and do a men's physique back shot, I just got washed away. But when they showed me, and they showed me 3 weeks out, and I literally, I shit you not, Joe, sorry for swearing, I got up at 4, I was in the gym for 4 o'clock every morning till 6 o'clock. And in that 2 hours, I was doing 45 minutes posing practice on my back. My back was shot, was gone, and my front posing. 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And you'd have to hit 50 back shots without getting it wrong, so getting into it. If you get wrong, you have to start the count again. And it was just unbelievable. Horrible. 3 weeks of pure hell. Hardest part of my training that it's ever been. But the difference it made was just unbelievable. And it's so worth it.
These are the things that no one really knows about, right? They see the lifting the heavy weight and the glory posing. It's all of this other stuff that goes on behind the scene. A couple of things I want to just pull back on, Ryan, if that's okay, because I've got to be honest, I was hoping for the exclusive that you've got the title now, and that was it. You said it was going to be your last Olympia, and then the word was where the emphasis. You spoke a bit more about once you've won a show, that's it. You've ticked it off. You can move on to another target. What's different this time, and what is your plan?
So for me, I think as a competitor, you always look for that one thing that nobody's got, or that one task. So I heard on a forum, as soon as I won the title, I was the 3rd best men's physique guy in the world now, 3rd best ranked. And I was like, how does that work? And they basically said, you've got Jeremy Buendia, who's 4 times, you've got Brandon Hendricks, who's 3 times, and then you've got myself, who's 1. But because I've won the 3 Arnold titles and other accolades, that it puts me 3rd in the ranks. And I'm like, 3rd? Any excuse really to go again. But it was like, I can't finish on 3rd. No way. So that's my excuse to everybody else. But really, it's just the fact that I absolutely live and breathe bodybuilding. I love bodybuilding. And it's never been a chore or monotonous being in prep. It's never affected my social life in the fact that I can still function. I can still do all the things I want to do. And it provides a good life for my family and stuff. So there's all those things that I factor in. Obviously, building the gym and the facility I've built just recently, that was because of my mentality of retiring this year. So it has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works there.
So what's the goal now, right? Because like all successful sportsmen or people in life, there's an element of redefining the goals, moving the goalposts, right? So all you've wanted your career is the O. You've got that. So now what is it? Legacy? Is 2 enough? I think 3 enough. When are you going to say, you know what, I've absolutely achieved everything I set out in this industry?
I honestly, I can never say like a number. And I always did say, and it's hard because I always did say if I ever won the title, I wouldn't feel the need to keep going back for it. But at the same time, I think I'm looking for excuses, but there's so many things what I missed where my daughter's 15 weeks old, so she won't have a clue about this. My son's 3, and he was watching me on TV this year. He came last year, he was fast asleep the whole way through it in Vegas. So at 2 years old, but 3 years old, he was really noticing it. And he's coming to the gym with me now on his treadmill at 3 years old and doing his squat. And he's really proud of that. And I've got videos of him watching me winning that title, and he was just jumping around the room, elated, and he was just, and I thought, I would love to share that moment with him. When he's 4 years old next year, it'd be an absolute dream of mine to be able to do that. But secondly, like I say, it provides a great life for us. And it is apparent that my following, that my my name in the industry is competing. There are other things, obviously, but whenever I'm not in prep or not competing, it's just not as active. Like life's not as active. So I do love the structure that it gives me, and I've done it for 20 years. I've only been competing, or 10 years, but for 20 years it's been my life anyway. For the first 10 years I was in a prep, so to speak, because it's just my everyday life. So yeah, I don't like to put a time on it. It's just I'm enjoying it, and while ever I'm enjoying it, and while ever it's providing a good life for my family, I'll carry on.
Fairly confident that you'll know when the time is right, because and before we get to that, just to cycle back, because you said that you only wanted to do, once you got one Olympia, that would be enough. That's what you were telling everyone. Is that what you believed, or did you know deep down you were saying that, and actually you wouldn't be satisfied with one? Talk to me a little bit about your mindset. Is there a slight juxtaposition between what you're telling the world and what you're telling yourself?
Yeah. I think if I'm, you're getting deep here, Joe. Yeah, I think if I'm honest, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think you're right. I think I was saying the things I felt like people needed to hear and wanted to hear around me, because you've got to see it from, like, obviously my wife, my family, where the only title I've needed was the Olympia. So when I'm placing 7th and they know how hard I work or how much I put into it, how much dedication, how many injuries I've had, the pain I worked through to get that title to come 7th, they're having to pick me up. I'm not somebody who's negative, I'm not saying I need someone, but they are around me. They know I'm hurting inside from that 7th place, from that 5th place the year before. And so, because that's just not me as a competitor. So it was coming to a point where I felt like, selfishly, I need to think about them as well as myself. Like, it is no point dragging them through the mud and doing it when I've achieved what I can achieve. I'm as far as I can achieve. And am I just going to be risking my health more with more injuries and stuff like that? And affecting my time with my kids and my family and being away from them and stuff. So that was always in my head, thinking, I think it's best that they want me to do it. And it's time that I give up. And as well, obviously, I meet these people and I say, I met you 10 years ago. I met you 8 years ago. I met you 6 years ago. And you're like, it's a very young man's game, isn't it? Like, the industry's like, you see so many like superstars come through, and I don't know how I'm still dragging on 10 years later.
People forget, though, because you've been around for so long, I think people actually feel that you're older than you are.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
There's no real
exactly
and left on your career. You can keep doing it as long as you want to, essentially.
Yeah. So the guys I compete against, like Erin Banks and Andre Ferguson, they're all in the 40s. And like, obviously I won't be doing that, but I've just turned 35 last week. But you do forget, and that's exactly right. I talk as though I'm really old to people, and it's because I'm old in the industry. And I'm not old as a physique or as a person. But yeah, that was the reason that I think subconsciously I was saying I wanted to give in. But me and Ross Edgley had a really deep conversation about this. Like, my fear, and I'll be honest, and my wife's fear as well, is when the time comes for me to stop, because I've got a purpose now. So, like, obviously going it satisfies my competitive side of me. So to not have that, I do fear, like, I do worry, like, how am I going to be able to, satisfy that hunger for competitiveness?
And that was going to be my next question, because a lot of professional athletes, it's a drop off. You've got all of the adrenaline, all of the pressure, and the pressure is a privilege, right? I know it's a cliche, but it gets you out of bed and it gets you to do the things that no one else is prepared to do. You've mentioned you're fearful of that time when the competitiveness is gone. Are you beginning to think about how you can replace it? Because you're probably never going to be able to completely emulate it, but what are you thinking is going to be what you do? Are you going to join Ross? You're going to swim around the UK? How are you going to replace it?
Yeah, that is so I thought, and I tried to implement it. It all started to come about really around the pandemic and things, when we weren't traveling and stuff, and I was being at home, and I was thinking, all my income and everything is very like sponsor based, and I've got a family to provide for. And I don't ever want to feel that risk of, if anything was to happen, like a pandemic or an injury, that it was over tomorrow. So I started to put into place lots of businesses. I own 6 or 7 businesses now, which is mentally so exhausting, but again, I took them on thinking that's going to be a way of keeping me busy from the competitive side of me. And I love business and I love what I do. I've got a very diverse businesses. I've got properties, like we do development and clothing brands and like private healthcare. So I'm in all different sectors, but it doesn't satisfy that competitiveness, and I'm very aware of that. I thought it might, but it doesn't. It takes my time up, but it doesn't satisfy that. So that is something I might need to really, really home in on at some point. But while I'm Mr. Olympia, not yet.
You're really positive, and you've been known for that throughout your career. But I want to look back, because obviously winning the title was your career high, but there must have been some really dark times in those 9 years where you're seeing the placings go in the wrong direction. Can you talk a little bit about how you got through those moments? Because as you've said, a lot of sacrifice, it's an incredibly selfish sport. There must be moments where you're just like, I don't know what to do. Can you describe how that was and how you got through it?
So there was three, in fact, like pivotal moments. The main one will always stick in my head, and that's why I put a ring on my wife's finger. I get upset actually, thinking about it. Yeah, was 2017. It was basically the Olympia, 2017. So I was second in the world. I was second in the Olympia in 2016. I just won the Arnold Classic, and I felt like the only thing I needed to do really was to live in America and be immersed in the pro leagues to take that title. So that's what we did. I took my girlfriend over at the time, and we literally set up overnight, 12 weeks before the Olympia, and it was just a whirlwind. Sold everything we had here, and set up in America, and didn't have anything over there. So it was a hard 12 weeks. We didn't have a house or a car or a gym to train out, food. It was one of those things where we just packed our bags, went, and then see what happens. And then, we went through that. And as a surprise, because everyone thought I was going to win, all my family, friends, everybody had saved up all year to come out. So my brothers, my sisters, even my best friends from Australia who emigrated to Australia, they all saved up all year and came over to surprise me. And I placed, I think it was sixth. I dropped from second to sixth. It was a shambles. It was just not a good showing, and I fell apart because I was so embarrassed in front of my friends, my family, that they'd all saved up, they lacked their year's savings to be there to see me like basically fail. So it was a real hard time, and I literally went into a hole. And I've never felt like that. I didn't know how to get out of it. I kept trying to push through, kept trying to train, kept trying to keep myself busy and active. It just couldn't get out of it. And I was spiraling and stuff. And it just got to a point. It was Amy, my wife, she could see it. And she just basically, if it wasn't for her, she just said, look, we need to get out of here, as in America, because we weren't happy there. So she said, we need to go back, immerse yourself around friends, family, around what you did. So the same kitchen I used to prep out of, and this semi-detached 2 up, 2 down house. Get back to your fit and sawdust roots of your training, and just get back to how you love it and stuff. And that's what she did. She made us come back. And it was such an amazing shift. I had 3 months of being in bed and just not wanting to do anything and just being she just said, you either fight, you get up and fight, or you carry on being morbid like this and give up. And that's just not you, Ryan. And it just clicked like that. And that was a real dark time. So if it wasn't for her, I think, I'm not saying I wouldn't have got back. It was going the wrong direction there, because I felt I'd let everyone down. My life, career's over, it's done, that kind of attitude. And then the second time was a year after that, 2018. I tore the labrum in my hip. I was stupidly went with Conor McGregor's team, John Kavanagh, Owen Roddy, decided to go and do MMA 8 weeks out from the 2018 Olympia. And I tore, the leg came out the socket, went back in and severed the labrum. So I was on crutches. So I did the Olympia, but that again, 6 weeks, I couldn't walk, so I couldn't train legs, couldn't train abs. So every morning I had to do ice detention to train my midsection. So I lost a lot of weight. If you see my 2017, 2018 physique, it lost a lot of weight because I couldn't physically do compound lifts or do any heavy lifting. And I had to stand in front of the mirror every morning, every night before bed, and just tense my abs, 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off, because it was the only way I could train my midsection. And it was just a brutal, brutal time. And then I ended up operating 2 days after stepping off the Olympia stage, and I was on crutches for 6 months. And that time when you're on crutches and all you can see is the guys you're beating, so Brandon Hendrickson, never lost against him up until 2018. He then went and won the Olympia. They're all getting bigger. I'm getting smaller and disheveled. And mentally, that was probably one of the hard, from a career standpoint, was the hardest time of my life because I just couldn't do anything about it. I had to just sit for 6 months and watch them take all the titles that I wanted and was working towards to get bigger and more defined and better. And the division evolved so quick in that time. And I was going the opposite way. And it took from 2018 to 2023 to get my size back to hold next to Brandon. And this was the first year I felt like I'd got enough size to hold next to him since 2018.
You mentioned Amy there, and I was going to ask you about the sacrifices you've had to make, because everyone sees the crowning glories, but they don't know about all those dark periods of sacrifices you've made. But seeing as you've mentioned her, it feels like your successes are a complete team effort, right? Without her support and the sacrifices she's made, you wouldn't be where you are. So that's my question. What is the biggest sacrifice that you've had to make? And if I was going to put that to Amy, what would she say is the biggest sacrifice she's had to make to support you to achieve your life's dream, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the sacrifice what I really struggled with, but again, I'm thankful for Amy because she made it a lot easier. So there was a few times, so last year and this year as well, my biggest fear was not being a good dad or being there for my kids, because my dad wasn't there for me growing up. So I didn't have a dad for many years growing up. So I always said that was my sole focus. That would always be number one, is being the best dad that I could be. And I always said to her, please don't ever let me not be that, like fade away. So she was always very mindful of that. And it just got to a point at the 4 week out mark where I just couldn't be present. I was there, I just wasn't present. You know what I mean? So I'm there in body, but just not in mind. And she could see I was struggling. And it was getting to a point where I was like, look, I'm going to have to fold this prep because I can't be the dad I want to be to Alfie and to Elsie, because I'm exhausted. I could hardly pick. He's wanting to pick me up and play. He's my best friend. Like I do everything for him now. So like even when I was prepping this time, I take him. I get him up, make his breakfast. We have breakfast together. I get him dressed, brush his teeth, bath him. We go to school. I bring him back. I feed him. I put him to bed, as she does with Elsie. So like we're a good team effort. So it got to that point at the 3 week mark where I just couldn't do those job roles, and I could see he was getting frustrated with me and he couldn't understand it. And that's when she said to me, you need to go to New York, you need to go away for the last 3 weeks because it's better for him to miss you than see you like this. And she was right. And that was, for me, was the hardest thing I ever had to sacrifice. Was I knew it was the right thing because it's providing for my family, and I knew it was a short time, 3 weeks, but that was so hard to leave them. And for her, the biggest sacrifice is she lost her crutch, or lost her life for like 4 weeks because you got 2 kids on you at home. It's just more than
amazing thing for her to do, right? Because she's basically saying, you go and do what you have to do and don't worry about anything, which I think is an amazing testament, not only to your team ethic, but her confidence that you're going to deliver as well, right? Incredibly tough. At the same time, it's like, go and do this for us. Was that motivating?
Oh, unbelievably. And that was the thing as well. In New York, when I was getting up at 4 o'clock every morning, I did 2 hours training. I was coming back, eating, getting my meals prepped for the next parts of the day. And then I was back training for 2 hours. Then I'd come back and sleep. And then I'd go back and do some more posing in the evening. There's so many times I was thinking, do I really need to go and do a third session? Like, I'm knackered, all these things. But then all I kept thinking was, what you've sacrificed, like you know what I mean, being out there, what she's sacrificing, having to have the kids and everything we've done to put yourself in this position. You go there now and you work your ass off, and it always used to keep me up the arse, just the fact that I'd even contemplated not going for what we'd sacrifice as a team. So it was a massive driving force, massive. And like I say, it was really sad in the fact that she couldn't be there this year, because she said it straight away. I knew he was going to win it this year. The fact she's been there since 2015, my first ever one. She's been to every show, everything around the world. It was just, she came last year to Vegas. She was heavily pregnant, morning sickness. Alfie was really ill, and it was just bad. We were up the night before with all of us with the runs and being sick, and it just wasn't a pleasant time when you got a 2-year-old in Vegas in December when it's shut, cold. So I just said, look, let me just go out and do this last thing on my own. Let me just do it. And that's, it's just a shame she couldn't share with it. And she's really been struggling with it since, actually, that she wasn't there to support it. But she doesn't need to be. I knew she would have been if she could.
And also the countdown to 2024 is on, right? So
actually, it's funny because she was getting to a point and she was in agreement with me retiring and stuff. And then she actually turned around and said, "You can't retire. Yeah, you've got to go back, and I want to see you win this title."
Yeah, I think that's an amazing sign of your incredible relationship, right? Because I think a lot of partners be like, "You've done it now. You said you were going to retire. Come on, we've got the kids. We've got all these other things we need to do." But the fact that you've got that opportunity to go and do it again, and turn one into a legacy. It must be incredibly exciting. I want to focus quickly just on fatherhood because you've got two little ones, right? It's throwing another set of spinning plates into your ever busy world. You mentioned that your dad wasn't around when you were little. So tell me about how you're managing to incorporate all the different facets of your personal and professional life. And also, as you say, not just be there physically, be there mentally. That's a lot of things to juggle, right? How are you managing it?
Yeah. So this was why running into the Olympia, and obviously with Amy saying like you're going to end up in a hospital if you don't leave this 3 weeks before I left. So, and that was the reason I left, because for 6 months when I was prepping, I was literally, which I don't advocate this or advise this at all. It was just something. It was a means for them. It was a must because I'd put myself in that position. I was the only person who'd done that, so I'm to blame. But I always said I'd never sacrifice, like I say, my family duties. So I know he gets up, he wants his milk at 6 o'clock. My wife has a coffee at 6 o'clock. So I was going out the door at 4 o'clock to get to the gym, do my cardio, do everything, get back before they wake, before the house wakes. And at the top of the stairs, I'd have the milk and coffee before they wake up. So I always done that. I'll be prepping breakfast while she's getting them up out of bed and stuff like that. So we come down, we have breakfast, and then I take him to school. So we have breakfast as a family, and then I take him to school for 8 o'clock. Then I'm on site doing so I was project managing the build. And then because we were building the gym, I was sloping off training on the half machines when I could, as and when and stuff. And then got back, picked him up at 3:30. We had from school. Then we had dinner together. Then I'd bath him and put him to bed. That was my time with him. Amy's got Elsie, the baby. And then from 8, he'd be in bed for about 8 o'clock. And then I'd eat my meal and get to the gym for about 9:30 at night. I'd trained till about 12, something like that. I'd come back and then I'd be in the office doing my emails till about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then I'd be getting up at 4 o'clock every morning. So I was literally 2 hours sleep for 6 months. It was crazy, though, honestly.
How did you just get through it?
I have no clue to this day. And people would say it, and everybody around me said, "How are you functioning? How are you actually like walking?" And I to this day, I still don't know. I honestly don't know. It was just, I think it was more a survival thing, Joe. I think it was one of those things where I'd put myself in a position where you sink or swim. It wasn't, I shouldn't have done it, but because I took on these businesses and because I knew I didn't want to sacrifice, that was my main goal, never to sacrifice the family. Newborn in the house, we had the Ryan Terry British Championships I'd agreed to do, which was just mad trying to organise that. And then we were prepping for the Olympia, and I didn't want to let anybody down at the Olympia knowing it's my last year. So I'd put myself in that position, and I just kept telling myself, it's your own fault. You get through it, you do it, and you sort it out. And I just can't believe I've got a healthy daughter. She's amazing. We had a very successful Ryan Terry British Championships, which can't ask for any more of that. We won the Olympia, and we're nearing completion on the gym now. So I'm due a rest.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can look back and see that all that sacrifice was worth it. But I'm guessing, as you said, it's not advice you would ever give to somebody. But are you able, Ryan, because I speak to a lot of successful athletes and business people of all different walks of life, and it seems to me there's a common thread that those that have the most success are almost the ones that are least able to take the time to stop and smell the roses. Yeah.
Agreed.
Are you able to do that? Are you able to be mindful in the moment and appreciate it, or is it something you've had to work at?
So this is something I'm really trying to work at. So you're so right. When I stepped off the Olympia stage, instead of being in the moment, knowing that my career is complete, it's my 2/3 of my life or what I've worked for, everything like that, it was straight away thinking, right, I need to get back. We need to get the gym finished, right? We need to capitalize on the title. We need to do it. And I'm like, no, just be in the moment, enjoy the moment, be in the moment. It was unfortunate because, again, like when I stepped, so I had a good few days in America. It was beautiful, it was amazing. The moment I stepped back onto UK soil, it was back to reality. It was the gym. I've been away for 3 weeks, and I had 40 contractors who had been quite slacky, if I admit. And the gym was in a bit of a state, and it was like, right, we've got Phil Heath coming, Kai Green, we've got all these big names. This needs to get done now. So within 3 days of the winning Olympia, I'm in a skip, hitting the skip down. I've got a transit van doing tip runs and stuff like that, and I'm mopping the floors at 12 o'clock at night. And it was just because I had to do it.
I know this about you from watching videos and reading into this. You don't delegate, right? You do all your meal prep. You do everything yourself to the extent you're getting in a skip, making sure that you can get more crap in it.
That's just the northern tightness.
And you've always had that work ethic, and I would imagine it's largely responsible for your success. But are you at the point now where you want to delegate, or something there is, right? I was going to say, is there something still in you like, I need control? Are you a control freak, essentially?
Yeah, no, 100% no. So the reason I have to do these things is because there's nobody else to do them. I'm trying my hardest to delegate. So I'm even in the process of now trying to hire and everything like that. My intention was always to set up so I can delegate and have more time with my family. So doing everything I'm doing now was to always set me up for the family. Like I say, a few spanners in the works, but doing the gym at this stage, if I'd have not won the Olympia, it'd have been sole focus on that, really. Sponsorship obligations kind of start to fade out, and it becomes more as that's my income, get a general manager and I can oversee it, spend more time with the family. But it has been thrown into turmoil with everything going on. When it comes to prepping, like with cooking and stuff like that, I'm very anal about that, because I need to know. I'm from a very working class background, and we were brought up from the age of 14. I was washing cars, I was pot washing. At the age of 16, I had 3 jobs as removers on a Saturday. I was washing pots every night as a pot washer. I was a plumber, apprentice plumber. So we were always taught to graft and work. But I am very aware, and we've had this conversation with my wife and stuff, that I need to slow down, because my mum has been in hospital a few times with being so busy. She had 3 businesses. She's 100 miles an hour. So that's where I've inherited it from. I know that. But I'm very aware of it. And my intention, obviously, in January, once the gym's up and running, once it's running itself, to really try to change my outlook and perspective on stuff.
I want to talk, just going back to your early days, because you said to me before, you were never confident as a younger man. It's something you always struggled with. And I was with Steve Cook recently, and he was talking about the dangers.
I was speaking. Sorry to interrupt. I was speaking to him last night. So me and Steve gave me a call last night on the exact conversation we've just had there. So it was about, he rang me for advice because he wants to set up his another business. He's inspired by all these businesses I've got and how I'm running a family life but I just said to him, Steve, look, it's not all like flowers and roses or whatever. And I wouldn't advise it. When I said I wouldn't advise it, I said, try and get a bit like a team in who can do it for you. Or I said, don't go the route I've gone. Like I said, it's not something I would promote to anybody. And if I could look back and do it again, I would definitely do things in a different way. Because he's like, I really look up to how you've built the gym and how you project manage yourself, how you've got the kids and how you do this. I was like, don't do it.
I love the fact that even somebody like Steve Cook, who everyone looks up to, is still seeing you on social media going, oh my God, Ryan's smashing it. It's so easy. I want to do it. The reality of the world in which we live is very, very different to how we portray it on social. But
exactly,
Steve, and I think you identify it a lot with this, Ryan, is, as someone who wasn't overly confident as a young man, bodybuilding is a really weird thing to choose to do, because all of your self-worth, your validation is basically put on someone else's judgment of how you look and nothing else. So can you talk a little bit about how you managed to get the right mindset or the right defense mechanism or whatever it might be to subject yourself to the worst kind of criticism anyone can really get, how you look, and then decide not to let that affect you, but actually build on it?
Yeah, I know. When we talk about this, if you speak to any bodybuilder, and if they're honest, female or any athletic, bodybuilding competitor, so be it a female or male, they all have an underlining either a body issue or body confidence. There's an issue there. There's something of self-confidence is why they've gone into bodybuilding, which is so strange, like you say, looking for validation from somebody else in order to get that. And mine was exactly that. So I would have never taken my top off in front of anybody. I was very self-conscious. When I was in school, even in summer, I used to wear, because we had a blue shirt, I used to wear a t-shirt underneath it, shirt, jumper. I'd always have a coat on in summer. but thinking that was covering me up. But I'd look twice as big, so it was actually false economy. Like it just didn't really work like that. But I look back and it's really sad that I don't know what triggered it. I don't know why I had that. I had a good upbringing, good brother and sister around me and stuff. So I don't know why I felt like that. Still can't pinpoint it, but I was very conscious about my body. So when I started training, that was my way of getting confident, building self-confidence. Never showed anybody. No one ever knew I trained or anything because, again, I just covered up all those years. But it got to a point where my football, I finished football, I'd finished golf, gymnastics, swimming. They were all my competitive outlets. So it got to a point when I was like 20 odd, and I was training for 7 years at that point, 6 years at that point, sorry. And I was around bodybuilders every day. So I lived and breathed. My stepdad was Mr. England. He was a big bodybuilder. He owned a spit and sawdust gym, and I trained with Mr. Universe, 3 times Mr. Universe. Big guy. Never wanted to look like them, but I was so inspired by their work ethic, their determination, their competitiveness, just their resilience, just everything about bodybuilding. And I wanted to see if I had what it takes to have that competitive side. So I thought, I'm going to do it once, face my fear, not tell anybody in the room, and just do it. And that's what I did. So 2013, I dieted down. Because I covered up, I trained in hoodies. Nobody knew what I was doing. I made it all myself, went down, and I entered what I thought was a local show, but it was Leamington Spa, so it was the closest show to where I lived. And I thought, I just want to see if I can face that fear and just do it. You know what I mean? And have that competitive. Never again would I do it. I remember backstage, I ran into a toilet cubicle. I was like shaking so much, thinking, why am I doing this? What? And I was going to leave. Next minute I knew, I was on stage and I just turned like an alter ego into somebody else. And that competitive side came out. I was here to fight. I was here to battle. And I loved when I stepped off stage, and I just loved that feeling of being somebody else, like as that confident person in me. And I just got addicted after that. And yeah, getting negative feedback, it always used to fire me up. Some people get inspired or get fired up by like positive things, or I've always been fired by, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not, is that slightly negative, the underdog, the hustle, the graft, being in the trenches, and that side of things. And that's how I've always worked and always pushed forward.
Do you still flip that switch when you walk into the gym or when you walk onto the stage, when you're doing anything that is fundamental to bodybuilding? Are you a different person, or they merged?
No, I'm a different person. Like even my videographer says, he says you can just see you switch when you go into your set or you go into something. And I don't know I'm doing it, but he just says you can see you become somebody else, and like you just literally. It's fight or flight. It's life or death kind of every time, every situation. And I remember in Bev's gym in New York, and it was the last week, and should have been backing off. I should have been doing this, and he's just like, I remember saying, you're clenching your jaw so hard, and you look angry, you know, when you're doing your sets. And I was in my head, I was like, I have to move this car off my family, like those type of stupid scenarios where I need to move this weight and I need to move it now. And I don't know. I've just always been like that.
I guess it's a superpower, right? In what you're doing, that ability to get into that frame of mind.
Yeah.
And you look around every commercial gym, no one else is doing that, right? They're simply with emotions. And I think that's where the difference is. It's that ability to go, this is life or death, and this matters that much.
Yeah. But the thing is as well, my everyday life, as you've known me for years and stuff, you know, I'm not that person every day. Like I'm not a guy. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm not somebody who wants to go around with an attitude and think the world owes me something or anything like that. When I go to train, I don't know if it's my mechanism. I sometimes think it was because of that body conscious, that self-confident, a feeling of, I don't want to say self-worth and start going down that really negative route, but that feeling of why I got into training, it probably resonates from there, and I've just adapted and made it something what it is today, really.
I remember the first time I shot you for a cover, you turned up at the shoot and you went, Joe, I'm not in great shape. I'm really, really sorry. And I remember talking to my colleague at the time going, Ryan's turned up. He said he's not in great shape. Let's see what we can do. And then you took your shirt off. And I was like, oh my God, you are in insane shape, right? So I hope you don't mind me sharing that story, but because every single person I've ever interviewed in the physique or the bodybuilding game has some type of body dysmorphia.
Yeah, I agree.
It's obviously something you've suffered with, but you've just been at the pinnacle of your career, right? Do you look at the shots of you from the Olympia? Are you happy with your physique, or are you looking at flaws?
I've only told one person this, but yeah, I do. Yeah, it's weird because since I met my wife, like before I met my wife, I had probably 8 years of being in a serious diet without knowing it. You know, being in a deficit, very clean, very monotonous. But it was just my life, and nobody knew it. And it wasn't like I was struggling; that just became the norm. When I met my wife, I was very conscious. I didn't want her to fall into that trap because I've dated bikini girls and stuff like that. And I've seen how obsessed they get, and they've got food intolerances now, and it's just horrible to see. So I never wanted Amy to be like that, because when I met her, she didn't have a clue about food. She had a tub of Pringles and a cheesy pizza every day, and I loved that. I loved that about her. So I never wanted her to change, and so I was very conscious around her. And I remember the first day we went to a place and she ordered a burger, and I was like, because I was about to order my steak and jacket potato with broccoli, and I was like, I'll have the same. And I was panicking, waiting for this burger to come out. I think I've not had a burger in 8 years. Like, and because I was so conscious, it obviously showed that I liked it. And I ate it. And I was like, what is this thing? And I was like, this is normal food. And ever since that day, something clicked where I feel comfortable. Don't get me wrong. Like you say, the Olympia, I knew I shirted around that question. But yeah, straight away, I was looking at flaws, like at things that need to be improved, things that could have been better conditioned there. I should have done that. That's not looking good.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Rob.
Who I am.
Were you able to look at those shots though after the show and go, "That is the best condition I've ever been in"? Or are you constantly comparing yourself, not necessarily to what you have been, but the image in your head of what you think you look like?
I'll be honest. I don't see it as a negative, but yeah, I'll always be very self-critical, and I don't let it drag me down. I think, shit, I've got 306 foot. I need to improve that. That's bad. I just look at it and think, right, we can work on that. Right, we can do that. That's something. And maybe that's me mentally getting myself ready to, you've got an excuse now to train harder. You've got an excuse now to not miss that meal. Like, these are the things you need to improve on. If I don't see an improvement in 365 days, I'm having you. So that's probably how I work subconsciously without knowing it. But I don't look at it and think, oh, that's disgusting. Oh, I don't want to see it. It's just,
it's not that.
I know.
And again, some people do kind of can't physically look at pictures of themselves.
Yeah.
You've obviously got an awful lot of your magazine covers behind you, and you are
I was going to say, I don't have that problem, Joe.
You're a lot bigger than you have been on some of the covers. Do you look at those covers sometimes and go, look, you know, I'm skin and bones, there's nothing to me?
No,
or can you
no, because I like that. So I like being where you can put a t-shirt on, a jumper on, and no one really knows, oh, he keeps himself fit, but they don't think he's number one in the world at physique. So I've always liked that. Like, so I've never really been obsessed with the size game. And yeah, I felt a little bit more uncomfortable this year being bigger. Definitely did. Because it's, again, it always stems back to that being overweight as a kid and not wanting to be overweight. So it just doesn't align with me being comfortable. But it doesn't ever affect me in any way. Like I say, I still have, now I'm off prep. We have nice breakfast every morning. We eat together, because for 6 months I'd not eaten with my family. I eat out of Tupperware when I need to eat. I'll still sit with them when they're having their meals, and I'll have a coffee or I'll have a drink with them and stuff. But it's not the same, is it? When like every night we have a sit down meal now, and we sit together as a family, whatever it is. I've had, I think, 4 Sunday dinners in 1 week since I've been back. I love a Sunday dinner. But
are you at that point though where, you know, you may be just pinching your middle a little bit more? Because as you said, as an overweight kid, I think for a lot of people that never leaves you. You still remember how that feels. Of
course you do. Joe, I won't lie. I know it sounds silly. I'm only, 2.5 weeks after the Olympia, 3 weeks after, 2.5 weeks after the Olympia. Because I've put about 10 pounds back on, which you need to, obviously, water weight, you need to put fat back on. You can't be that. Yeah, I'm not someone now who'll take my top off. I'll be back in training in my hoodies and stuff like that. That's just who I am. Yeah, it doesn't affect me in a negative way, but I will be training the hoodie again, and I'm happy to do that just because I feel more comfortable that way. It just, yeah.
With so many guys as well, and girls, I think food does become an issue. We've mentioned body dysmorphia, but food issues are so common in the fitness industry, which is kind of mad, right? The deeper you get into the health and fitness industry, the more you see people are struggling with mental health issues around how they look and what they eat. Have you ever, you know, because everything you've eaten for so long has to be meticulously measured out, have you had those moments? And if so, how do you kind of deal with issues around eating?
Yeah, so I did, like I say, for 7 years. Some of the things I look back on now, I just think, wow, ludicrous. Like if I was ever going on a date, or if I was out in the cinema and 9:30 came my salmon and broccoli, no matter what, I was eating at 9:30, not 9:31 or 9:29. I was eating at 9:30. So like the smelly, horrible broccoli would come out and I'd eat it. Yeah, if I'm driving on the motorway and my alarm went off, I'd pull up on the side of the shoulder, and I'd eat my white fish and broccoli and freezing rubber, terrible. And I look back because that was just the norm for me. Now I look back and it's ludicrous. And I do thank my wife for that, if I'm honest, because I met her when I did, and I realised a burger. And the thing was, as well, my physique changed so much since adding, I wouldn't say bad food, like normal food in to bodybuilding food, like to very prepped, clean food, that my body and my strength in the gym, my pumps lasted longer, everything. There was so many positives from it. And I could see the benefits because I've been so regimented for so long. When I started introducing these things, I was getting benefit from doing it. So I was like, this actually helps me. It's not a hindrance, it's a help. And I could mentally start to accept it and be okay with it. So yeah, there was a time for 7 years where I wouldn't even look at a slice of bread because I was like, there's yeast in that. Whereas now I've had 2 slices of toast and still have all my oats. I still have my antioxidants, my blueberries, my complex carbs, essential fats, my protein, everything in the morning. But again, I had peanut butter and jam on toast today with my kids and stuff. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
I get those simple pleasures, right? I bet you really appreciate those moments of having jam on toast with your kids because you've not been able to do it. I think for so many people, guys and girls on the streets, they cannot get their head around the way you have to eat when you're bulking or when you're cutting, right? Because it's so formulaic when you're having to eat so much. And then almost overnight, you've got to flick a switch where you're massively cutting.
So for me, Joe, like I said, I would always have my 6 meals a day. So I'll still have 2 fillet steaks every day, 2 salmon fillets every day, my 3 chicken breasts, my 4 eggs, my oats. They'll all still be in there, but there'll be stuff added to it to make it enjoyable. But then I'll swap one out and have, like, say, my family meal at night. So I'll add a chicken breast to it or something. But I know what I need, like, roughly, to be in a surplus of calories. I know what I need to be at my maintenance and below. So as soon as I come off a prep, as long as I'm in a surplus, I switch off because I don't want to be this guy who's counting every calorie 365 days a year because it's not healthy and it's not something you want to be around either. Kids and family, they don't want to be around that and seeing me trying to count out broccoli sticks for micronutrients. And I think with bodybuilders and the world of bodybuilding, it's like a cool thing to have your Tupperware, let everybody know in the room that I've got 165 grams of carbs and that I'm struggling and I'm in the trenches. And you don't need to be like that. You really don't. Like there's so many times, like my son, his birthday is always in the 20th of September, so it's always at the Olympia or around it. So we'll have parties at pubs and restaurants and stuff like that. And my meals will be in the car. And the time I run out and just quickly eat my meal and be in, it's like I've been to the toilet or I've been to the bar. Nobody needs to know. But I've got friends or people in the industry where they hassle everybody. They walk in, they pull their hoodie up, they're in the corner eating their ice and whatnot, letting everybody know that he's drinking a pint of water because and I was just like, it doesn't need to be like that. I live like a very normal life, and people who don't know how I eat and stuff would never know how I eat because I don't need to show the world. It's for me, and that's how I've always been.
I think that's the key as well, right? You're just getting on with it. It's not a song and dance. It's not about attention, if anything, because of that lack of confidence. And you say your first experience in the gym, it's not about standing out. It's about blending in and only then revealing the physique when you absolutely need to. I'm really conscious of time, Ryan. Looking into your crystal ball, if we had this conversation in 5 years, because I'd like to have our conversations not every decade like we've been doing. Speak to you again in 5 years. What have you done? What are you doing?
So I think RT Fitness will be exactly what I wanted it to be because it's going to be I won't say charity led, but it's going to be very much about the community. And bi-monthly, we're going to be doing charity events and stuff. So I really want, and it already is this before we've even opened the doors. So RT Fit has become very popular in this area already. It's coming global, but there's so many people applying. There's all different businesses want to get involved. And I've already got local businesses all doing things together now. And I want to do that for my local town. And I want this place to be the hub. And already people are wanting to franchise it. So there's always a possibility. As long as they stick to my ethos, as long as there's a charity type of vibe where they're doing something, then I might franchise it. I might make it accessible to everybody. As long as we get this one right, I'm going to make all the mistakes for this one first and that. So in 5 years' time, I want to be able to be a lot more relaxed. I will be retired by then, 100%. Obviously, spending more time with the family and just enjoying being in the moment with those guys, and hopefully, have a successful business is what I've delegated. And even giving back to the industry as well, the bodybuilding. Like, that's what I tried to do this year with the Ryan Terry British Championships. That was 10 years since I won that title, 10 years since I turned pro, 10 years since from being a plumber to then turning pro to becoming a sponsored athlete, professional athlete. So I felt like I owed a lot to that show and that title. So that's why I put so much into it with Gymshark. So maybe doing that on a larger scale and just enjoying life.
We've seen, obviously, Body Powerful by the way. So that was the big kind of UK fitness expo. Do you feel positive about the future of British bodybuilding in the industry at large? Because obviously you've got the show. There's so many more people into fitness than when you and I first went to Body Power back in the day, right? Do you feel like there is a positive momentum around what you're trying to do, and you can be a figurehead for it?
I think I'll be naive. I'll be silly to say, I think it's going to be easier. I do think there's a lot of damage been done with I don't want to say small-minded people because that's like separate, but people not working together. The sports industry or the bodybuilding industry is still small. It's growing. It is growing, but it's still relatively small, and it can be so much bigger if everybody's on the same page, wanting to promote each other. I've noticed, obviously, getting in the back end of it and obviously trying to do my own show, there's so much animosity or so much like friction between like federations and between people that it's really hindering what it could be. Like, if we were to work together and we could all have a piece of the pie and actually make it something it could be, it would be amazing. But obviously, I know business, I know that sort of thing, people don't think like that. But in my eyes, the way I work, I feel like we could all excel together. Why does it have to be? And that's the only way it's really going to grow. I'm only one person, and what I put into that show, and it was great, but there were two other shows being put on the same date to try and hinder it. And then you just think, wow, like, do you know what I mean? We could do this as a UK together and make it massive, but we shall see. I hope so.
It's the issue, isn't it? And always has been with fitness. It's so tribal. Yes. I mean, you're either a bodybuilder or you're a CrossFitter or you're a marathon runner, and it's like we're
exactly
together, right? It should be a lot easier to work together.
But so for instance, just quickly, Joe. So next door to me, there's a big unit called it's CrossFit Retford. And I went to them first before I took on my place. And I said, look, would you feel comfortable with me coming in here? We're a different type of fitness. Like, I'm obviously going for the hypertrophy type of, I know you're the CrossFit. I said, but I won't come in because I don't ever want to shit on local businesses and stuff like that. So I won't ever do that. They were okay with it. And in return, I said, look, there's this stigma of bodybuilding, CrossFit, strongman. We're all separate. We've got this huge yard between us. And I was like, look, I can bring in Noel Olsen. I don't know CrossFit, but I know the guys who are in there through the industry. And I says, why don't we do something together instead of being against each other? So next summer, we're planning to have like CrossFit, bodybuilding, the Saltman brothers, everybody down, and to just do one big event where we all mix and do something together. So that's my intention. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but we'll see.
There's something in common, right? It's that there's more that unites us than divides us, but everyone's so territorial about their own thing.
Yeah.
One last question, Ryan. Again, if you don't want to talk about it, we can absolutely cut this out. But there's so much, or there's certainly a lot of news around young guys taking performance-enhancing drugs now in a way that there just never was a decade ago. And you've got these recreational users who want to be big. It's the Love Island generation, right? Essentially, want to be a certain way. Are you noticing more and more people talking to you about gear and about steroids? And if so, how worried are you that maybe they're not going to be using it in the right way?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not going to go too far into this, but it's very apparent nowadays. Like you say, it's become very popular. It's become the one thing I do think is good from like the old era is the fact that people are talking about it more, especially. So like there is more information about it. So if people are going to do it, you are on the more understanding of it. But then on the flip side of it, you've got coaches, you've got people now who are promoting heavy cycles, heavy things, which is dangerous. So I think there should be some accountability when it comes to that sort of thing. But yeah, I like the fact people are more aware of it and they're talking about it because it's always been going on. It's been going on for years and years and years and years. But it's just behind closed doors. And some of the stories that even in my local gym that have happened back in the day because there wasn't ready available information about it is scary. People having kids having heart attacks at 19, 20 years old because of the stuff they're taking. So it's a shame that they feel they need to do that at that age, especially if it's like, say, recreational and it's just for a decent profile picture on Instagram or whatever. But it is the world we live in now. I think social media plays a huge part in that. I think because everyone wants to portray their best life on there, they want to look their best self on there. It's kind of coming hand in hand with that. I've met people who don't even train and talking about doing it because they think it's a wonder drug and so like crazy.
I think that's it. It's seeing all of the upside without any of the downside. And I guess it leads on
Yeah.
to the social media generation, which has been a huge platform for you, right, to grow your profile and to,
Yes.
I guess, help your business as well. But looking more at the industry point of view, there's going to be an awful lot of young people, and the stats and the research are out there of body dysmorphia at levels we've never seen before. Mental
Unbelievable.
among young people, levels we've never seen before. How much do you think that you have a role to play as an individual, and the industry has collectively, to try and help some of these young people who think the answer is looking a certain way or eating a certain way is going to make them happy when, as you know, as someone who's been at the top of the game, you can't seek that validation in just how you look?
Yeah, I think we all should play a part in that. And I think it is starting to come around a little bit more. But again, I'm worried that the narrative's going to change on it. Where I've noticed a lot of people like Molly May and people like that, which like big industry influencers who they're putting posts out about like cellulite or postpartum, which is amazing because it's natural, it's real life, and we should be showing more of real life stuff. But then I've noticed other people get on the bandwagon. Oh, she's got a lot of engagement there, so right, let's do something to get engagement. So it's such a weird, complicated world, social media, isn't it? And like I don't understand it to this day. I've been very fortunate that my following's grown organically, and I've got a team now, or I've got a videographer who helps with social media because I can't navigate myself. I'm a very simple man, and like I would much rather come and shake someone's hand and meet them at an expo, and that's why I miss the old days, so to speak. I used to love that interaction and get to know someone face to face than a like or a comment on social media. So it is a powerful tool, but I think it needs to be, if they can regulate it, how they can, I don't know, and it just be a bit more real, just be a bit more, like you say, we all try and put our best life out there, don't we?